Hello everyone, my name is Chad Gornick, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on the cognitive load theory. This is a presentation done for my Advanced Instructional Design class for Dr. Hastings. Before we get started on our research adventure, we're going to have to take a plane ride from my hometown of Pensacola all the way over to Australia. Australia is the birthplace of John Sweller, the originator of the cognitive load theory. Before we dive into the cognitive load theory, I'd first like to talk a little bit about its originator, John Sweller. John Sweller is an Australian educational psychologist. He received his PhD from the University of Adelaide in the Department of Psychology. He's currently a professor at the University of New South Wales. Besides coming up with the cognitive load theory, he is very famous for his articles that he's published on active learning and schema psychology. I'd now like to talk a little bit about what the cognitive load theory actually teaches and how it relates to the field of instructional design. According to the cognitive load theory, learners retain information best when they do it in a way that does not overload their mental capacity. If we try to learn too much information at one time, this can stress our brains and it makes it hard for us to recall the material at a later date. There are three main types of load that make up our total cognitive load. The first type is the intrinsic cognitive load. This depends on the complexity of the material and how the learners interact with it. An important note about this is something that cannot be changed by instructional design principles. When the intrinsic cognitive load is low, this means that the content being learned is very simple, and it doesn't take much mental capacity to learn the objectives. If the intrinsic cognitive load is high, this means we're using more resources in our brain, and the material is more difficult. The second type of load is extraneous cognitive load. Extraneous cognitive load results from the techniques that are used to present the material. A note about extraneous cognitive load is that it does not contribute to learning. It's simply how the material is modified to be presented to the learner. This can be done in a variety of instructional design ways and has a variety of presentation techniques. Our third type of load is germane load. Germane load helps build new ideas or schema in the brain and helps learners to learn new information. Upon the learner, it's a self-effort on their part to learn the new material and to master the new material. This may require memorization techniques or even instructions. In the instructional design field, one of our goals is to design course content and e-learning courses in a way that best benefits the learners. According to the cognitive load theory, there are principles that we should adhere to make this possible. Number one is that we should integrate sources rather than present them individually and bog users down with unnecessary information. If we combine our audio, visual, text-based, and even video game resources into one objective module, it benefits the users and does not overload their brain. The second principle that the cognitive load theory teaches we should adhere to is that we should focus on goal-free problems instead of means-end problems. When I refer to a goal-end problem, I am referring to a problem that reduces the means-end problem by removing the goal from the problem. This is where we give the learner some information and use a find-what-you-can approach to the means-end for the goal. An advantage of this is that the examples are directed in the course, and step-by-step solutions are often provided so that students can easily see how they got from point A to point Z. This helps reduce the cognitive load. In contrast, Sweller believes that we should avoid the means-end approach to problem solving in our e-learning courses because this requires students to work backwards from their goal and find the solution given based on the problem. This creates too much cognitive load for the brain and is unnecessary to learn the information effectively. The third principle that we should follow with the cognitive load theory to help reduce cognitive load is to design courses to be learner-focused and have clear instructions. An e-learning course should be designed so that the learner can get the most out of the content. When someone is taking an e-learning course, whether it be at home or at work, the goal is to master the knowledge of their course so that they can advance in their careers and in their future goals. There are a few different strategies we can use to integrate the cognitive load theory into the instructional methods we already use in designing our online courses. Number one is we can clarify text by examples. I'm sure we've all had a class where there's just a bunch of text thrown up on the screen with no examples or even videos directly related to the content. Let's try to combine all these so that it's easy on the learner. The second is that we should use proper page layouts and font sizes so that the course is aesthetic. Lastly, we should try to provide summaries after major learning objectives. If certain information is more important than others, especially in regards to a test or a particular task that's coming up in the course, we should summarize why that objective is important and why we need to place more emphasis on it than the other information. Again, this has been Chad Gornick, and I'd like to personally thank you for tuning into my presentation and learning more about the cognitive load theory. I hope that you find the theory useful in the field of instructional design and in developing your e-learning courses. Thank you again for watching. Have a great day.